5. Everybody, the agenda of the regular meeting of the city of Coachella, the city council sitting in closed session, regular meeting, city council sitting as a Coachella Sanitary District, Coachella Fire Protection District, Coachella Financing Authority, Coachella Education and Government Access Cable Channel Corporation, Coachella Water Authority, and the successor agency to the Coachella Redevelopment Agency and the Coachella Parks and Recreation Board, I guess. Today is February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day or Dia de la Amistad, and happy Lent as well. Is that what you say? Happy Lent?
Ash
No?
Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. Happy Ash Wednesday. This is the beginning of Lent today. All right. With that, we'll move forward and we'll call this meeting to order. I do have notice from Council Member Galarza that he will not be attending the closed session. I have not heard from Council Member Delgado. Have any of you heard from Council Member Delgado? Okay, she should be here. Well, with that, we'll ask the clerk to note for the record the roll. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. At this time, the Board Council Corporation Authority may announce any items being pulled from the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item number 4, the RCTC presentation will be moved to March 27th meeting.
Okay, this is being moved to March 20th. Perfect. All right. Can we get well, I don't think I need a motion for that since they're not here. We'll move forward on public comments. With anybody in the audience that'd like to address the city council on public comments? For closed session items, seeing none, we'll adjourn to closed session. We have 2 closed session items. Thank you. Welcome, everybody,
Yeah.
from our closed session. We're gonna go ahead and reconvene the meeting at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna ask the city manager to lead us in a pledge of allegiance. Yes, you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we'll move forward for our closed session announcements. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one announcement on item number 2 in closed session. City Council approved and gave direction to initiate litigation, the specifics of which will be disclosed once it's formally commenced. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to a presentation on a project update of pavement management system. All right. Mr. Engineer. Andrew, welcome.
On the bottom.
Welcome. Andrew, go ahead.
So good evening. I wanted to bring this presentation to City Council because we have finished our surveys of the streets relative to the condition of the streets, and we have a CIP project to do pavement repairs within the city. And I wanted to go over some of the initial results that the pavement analysis found and discuss some of the prime projects that engineering and staff thinks would be valuable to move forward with with our current CIP project. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. It is Valentine's Day, so I think we want to move quickly tonight. But as you know, we have the pavement management report that we started in 2023. Michael Baker has been surveying all the streets. And we also have a CIP project for pavement management for streets projects. And we have about 1.9 million that we had allocated towards that overall project. And we've already spent about 300,000 on some projects already. So we have about 1.6 million in our budget still that we can spend on paving projects. This has been presented to City Council several times. And as you recall, we have this truck that went around the whole city and evaluated all of our streets within our communities. And they come up with this fantastic data that will be public facing, so the public will be able to have access to all of this information to see what the condition of our streets are from a street level view. And then internally, we have separate information that we have internal analytics where we can analyze all the information. We can look at how different how spending different amount of money affects the streets and how we can improve the overall rating. This is the snapshot in time right now from when the report was presented. And right now, about 43.3% of our streets are good to satisfactory, 39.9% are fair to poor, and 16.8% are very poor to failed. That's a pretty high number for very poor and failed streets. So what I'm going to be presenting to you is looking at how we can make a dent in that, how we can invest in our assets and our streets to try to bring that number down. As far as what the public will have access to, this is what will be the public facing viewer. And the good thing about this is it provides accountability for engineering, where we're not just investing money where, places where someone complains the most or where it's convenient. We're looking at this from an analytical standpoint, and we really want to look at what communities need the investment, what communities really are requiring the kind of investment that we should be spending to bring our street quality up. So looking at that map, a couple areas just really kind of pop out right away. We have the Dillon Road corridor, which we know is in bad shape, but this confirms that the Dillon Road corridor, it was rated as a failed section, so that is one of the worst streets, especially for a street that gets that much traffic. Also, Vista del Norte, which is immediately adjacent to that, has a very serious failed section. Avenue 52 from over by the industrial park, so from between 86 and the train tracks, is very serious to failed condition. And I actually have each one of these, and then the two neighborhoods that are in the worst condition are Buena Vista at the average, the overall average worst street pavement index of our communities. And Navarra came in a close second. So looking at each one of those streets, Dillon has a long section which has failed and another section which is very serious. And Vista del Norte also has the portion from Dillon to the Vineyards project is also in very, very serious condition. So looking at the total cost to rehabilitate those streets, you'd be looking at about $2 million. Recall that we have about 1.6 million available in our current street budget. Avenue 50 in Tyler, these are also failed very serious streets. At this time, engineering department is not recommending that we move forward with the repairs there because those streets are proposed to be abandoned with a new bridge project. So that is a section I wanted to highlight as being one of the worst sections of streets within our community. But we're not recommending making major investments into streets that are going to be abandoned. At Avenue 52 in Enterprise, again, very serious to failed conditions. And these are very wide streets, so the cost to rehabilitate these is pretty high. Our cost estimate for repairing Avenue 52 is just north of 2 million. And then the small section of Enterprise from Avenue 52 down to Industrial will also be up in the like $400,000 range. Of note of this section is because we do have the additional project that's going to be going on at Avenue 50 in Tyler. In the future, we will be directing additional traffic towards Avenue 52 because when the bridge project is going on, we'll have a lot of city traffic that will end up getting diverted to this direction. So having it in its current condition, understanding that in the future, we're going to be directing more traffic towards this while we do construction. Engineering does recommend the full repair of this section. As far as communities, looking at Buena Vista, they did have the overall average lowest rating. The streets have gotten bad enough there that they would require full depth replacement and removal in order to repair that community. And that cost is, estimated to be up in the 1.7 million range. The other residential community that had the second lowest overall average rating was Navarra. This had a mix of some streets in serious, very poor condition. A lot of it was poor to fair. This one can be repaired now by just doing a mill and overlay. And the benefit to doing a project like this now is by doing mill and overlay, you can get, it costs about 60% less to do a mill and overlay and get that street up to a good condition. Whereas the streets that are in this kind of condition where they're borderline, if you don't move forward with the repairs in a timely manner, you end up having to do the full depth replacement and the costs only go up. As far as how we would be able to fund these different projects, as I've mentioned, we have 1.6 million available in our Measure Ryan SB1 funds. That is allocation for both this year and the allocations that are set for next year for the combined paving phase that we're in right now. Relative to the Dillon project, I do want to kind of separate the Dillon project because as you might be aware, we have a fund for maintenance and rehabilitation where the landfill actually pays us funds to do the work on Dillon. So that agreement hasn't been available for too long, but that is a long-term agreement. Right now, there's only about 200,000 available in that account. But if we move forward with the full rehabilitation of Dillon now because it is a needed investment in our assets. We would be able to use those funds from the tip fees that we get for the repair to reimburse the general fund over time. So that allows us to make the investment now, but then pay ourselves back with those rehabilitation funds that constantly come in every quarter. And just relative to funding, I do want to point out that we always look at other funding sources for how we can invest in streets. This is specifically street maintenance only. So CVAG reimbursements, grants, street dip, those types of funds that we use for projects and for widening streets, those funds are generally not eligible for street maintenance. So when it comes to the kind of investment we want to make in maintaining our existing assets, it's usually pretty, there's not grants and reimbursements that are generally available for maintaining existing assets. So I kind of went through that really fast, but looking at a summary of how that adds up, if we were to move forward with the suggested projects that are in need of immediate repair, it adds up to about 7.2 million in total street repairs based off of the snapshot right now for what we would like to invest in our streets and those capital assets. We have the 1.6 million available in Measure I and SB1 that was currently allocated in our CIP project. We would be able to get the reimbursement. We would look to reimburse general fund the 1.5 million out of the Dillon repair and maintenance account. So that would be overall reimbursed. And then in total, we'd probably be looking in the range of about 4 million as a general fund requests if we move the projects forward in order to move forward with these projects and make a good dent in the deficiencies that were found in the pavement analysis that we just did.
Andrew, for reference,
Yes.
at Measure A and SB1, can you just,
1.6 mil.
what's Measure A again?
Measure is a 0.5 cent sales tax.
Okay.
Yes, yep. Yeah, Measure is the sales tax and SB1 is the gas tax.
Yeah, and Measure is a RCTC generated sales tax.
Yeah.
So, and those are funds that are specifically set aside for cities for
Yeah.
street maintenance projects.
Is there an extra tax for, like, for instance, like on enterprise for some of the a lot of the trucks come, from certain places.
We currently do not have any like industrial tax or commercial tax for those types of businesses that would be allocated towards streets. No.
I'm assuming, but would you think that some of the road repair has to be because of all those trucks that come down from some of those companies that are on
Yeah,
enterprise?
I mean, obviously the heavy truck traffic contributes to
But they don't pay any extra tax, everyone gets the same.
they don't pay any tax above just their regular, the corporations obviously pay higher overall taxes, but other than their standard taxes they're required to pay, they don't pay an additional tax that's specifically for streets. So they just pay their regular tax and contribute to the general fund, like all corporations.
Cool. Council?
So just in conclusion, we're not looking to allocate any funds right now. We're looking for direction. So staff didn't want to come with a big request like that without first reaching out to council and getting your opinions on if we are to move forward with these 4 projects. We would like to bid each one of them separately, get final numbers, know exactly what the costs are. And before going out, putting these out to bid and getting these estimates and these final costs, we would like the direction from staff and our direction from council as to opinions on investing general fund dollars into these capital assets.
I think 3 and 4, right in the ballpark. We should move on that and then allocate, notwithstanding what we know, what's in our reserve, because I really don't know what that number is, but get dollars from there. I think what number 2 There could be some projects on the horizon that we may look at from a community benefit standpoint. That we may want to talk to any potential new folks out in that area to look at community benefit. And then I think we should come back on Dillon Road and Vista del Sur or Vista del Norte and really kind of understand that projection. You're saying a 10-year deal, and maybe we talk to the neighbors at the county and see if we can like work with them potentially on any paving projects that they may be doing, or look at how we may be able to contribute. But those are my initial kind of just first swath, not understanding what our true budget number is.
Yeah, I would argue that project 2 is specifically Avenue 52. If we can separate 52 and Enterprise, or, I mean, you have a reason why you put them together, but driving through Avenue 52 quite often, it's compared to other exits, compared to Avenue 50, like, it's pretty bad. It needs immediate, where these are important because there's a benefit to the certain neighborhood. But whereas Avenue 52 is a benefit to anyone that drives and gets on and off Avenue 86. I would argue that I think 52 is a bit more important, and even I think it is in worse condition than Dillon. Based on, you know, on me driving a Toyota Corolla and feeling those bumps pretty, you know, yeah, 52 is
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, 52 by itself, because Enterprise, that's the majority. I don't drive down Enterprise because I know how bad it is. I'll go around, right? If I want to use the bridge. That's been mainly used by, I think, you know, the semi trucks and the big providers that go in there. But 52 is a artery that is used by a lot of these people. You know, I use it, but I use 52. So it just depends, because 50 closes, right? Because it gets washed out. So then you have to go on 52, or you got to go all the way to 48. So.
Oh, and I will say the projection for Enterprise is only from industrial, so it's just that first block in front of the Ocean
Okay.
Spray. The rest of Enterprise all the way down to 54 is actually in good shape. So it's really just that one block that we'd be looking to do, because it is in a almost failed state.
The economic impact is relatively small compared to the entire project, would you say, or?
Yeah, it's 52 is the.
Yeah, but
significantly
I'm
more
saying
expensive.
no, say like removing Enterprise wouldn't be a big impact to 52 and Enterprise. It's just a block.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of them are important, but if we, you know, when you look at I wouldn't mind giving direction to look into all the 4 projects and how we can finance them, but you know, I wouldn't take out 52 for sure.
I can also separate Avenue 52 and Enterprise so that you have an opportunity to,
Yeah,
when you see the final cost, to say, you know,
Good.
yay or nay, if I was to separate it as a separate project
that'd be great.
rather than combining it. Okay,
Okay, good.
Andrew,
Yes.
madam. So just so that I understand the funding sources, for me, it's always the communities first, so it's gonna be Buena Vista and Navarra. Just, you know, because I think that we should be going to communities first. When it comes to Vista del Norte, it says it has a $500,000 general fund. So is that in the general fund already allocated for Vista del
no,
Norte?
so no funds are allocated. We're not requesting allocating funds right now. We're saying that's potentially where that funding would come from in order to pay for that project.
But then, so you're estimating that because they would take care of the $500,000, but then obviously we can just then allocate that to some of the funding sources that are not complete, or that we're looking, I mean, we can move that around.
Yes, if there was desire to not do that portion street, Vista del Norte is in very bad shape. It is a failed road from, and we're not planning on doing all of Vista del Norte. It's only the portion where there is no current development. We understand that the vineyards and other projects moving forward, so there are some developer responsibilities for doing the portions that are, you know, adjacent to the proposed developments that are coming through. So we're just looking at the section immediately adjacent to Dillon. And the reason you pair them together is because you're already doing work on Dillon. The crosscut, the concrete cross gutters, some of that cost in Vista del Norte is actually at the intersection of Vista del Norte and Dillon. The concrete cross gutter is completely collapsing. The ADA ramps are completely collapsing. So some of that is concrete and curb and gutter repair at the intersection as well. So the 500,000 isn't just the asphalt, it's some of the additional work at that intersection that is in very poor condition.
Well, I live in that community, so I'm aware of how badly in condition it is. And then I know there is a proposal there for the developer that was supposed to go with I know it was like a hotel, townhouses, right? And
Yes.
luxury RV.
Okay.
And then so obviously if that comes through, then it takes care of just a portion that he would be responsible for.
Yeah, our estimate stops short of there, where that project starts. So hopefully if that project moves forward, then
So the
yeah,
$400,000, the $500,000 would just be from the start of Dillon Road to right after where the gas station is, or the agriculture field.
yes. And again, the reason that street's more expensive is because it does require full removal and replacement because the road is in a near failed condition.
So,
So when you approach by getting rid of these failed streets, it allows us to approach maintenance in a more constructive
Andrew,
manner.
we heard you.
Thank you.
I think we understand. And then, I think it's gonna be important that, again, that you really analyze projects, as the councilwoman mentioned, that proposed developments and the potential community benefit that can be derived and actually meet the objective that we're trying to meet, which is to pave some of the streets. So factor that in, but you have direction, about this. So, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Andrew.
do want to just really quick so in the past, we have discussed what Councilmember Garlarza has brought up about having a tax for some of the trucks that are coming in through there, because we do have an overflow of diesels coming through, which we cannot accommodate. So they're parking all over Vistas Norte and Dillon, so they are damaging those roads quite a bit. And so if there's an opportunity to at least come up with something or a plan, you know, I would look forward to seeing what that would look like.
And for the record, we've never had a conversation on taxing diesels in the city. But if that's something that the councilwoman's proposing, she can propose it. But we've never talked here about taxing diesels in our community. Not that I've ever heard of it.
Yes, we have, is when we were expanding the Love gas station out there. And so when that was coming up, because they were bringing in so many additional diesel trucks, it had been brought up at that time, only because we are accommodating so many trucks.
So over 6 years ago, and you weren't on council when that
Then
occurred.
it came through the planning commission, Mayor. But I don't want to go back in this forth. I don't want to go back and forth with it. What I am saying is that if there is an opportunity, I know other cities do it. I'm not saying that, you know, we should implement it, but we should look into it if there is an opportunity there. Because all these people here end up paying for it. This is a reality for passing trucks that don't even live here. They're passing through and, you know, our residents are paying for it. So all I'm saying is that we take a look at it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for your input.
Happy Valentine's Day. We'll move
Thank you.
forward on written communication. There's none of the consent calendar. It is recommended that
We
the
do
consent.
have written communications, but they're for item 18 and public comment.
Thank you. It is recommended that consent items be acted upon simultaneously unless separate discussion or action is requested by a council member or member of the audience. What are the wishes of the city council? For a motion?
I'll motion to
Is there a
approve.
motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on to item number 15. This is approve a budget allocation of $25,000 to add a new special event fiscal year, March 30th. This is the 2024 Coachella Women's Summit.
Yeah, I think this is you know, we just get started just for the sake of time, but great proposal. Glad to join Council Mayor Pro Tem Vietkin in bringing this to the city. Highlights importance of us to deliver the equity that we want to achieve and bringing leaders together. So, you know, applaud Mayor Pro Tem's vision, and I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can we get a roll call?
I do have some questions about just what was the process? Because So are you asking for approval of the event itself or the 25K? Because I did see it on social media ads.
It's both the approval of the event and the budget of 25,000. The goal is to get that money compensated through sponsorships that we're seeking. So that's why we're doing the advertisement now to get the sponsorships for. The goal is to have this to be a no impact event for the city through the sponsorships.
So, but if the social media ads are already running, but you're asking for us to approve the event, which I support, but should you have them? make-
Yeah, no, that was my mistake. I was supposed to put it on the January 24th agenda. That was my logistical error.
And then, just so that I'm understanding, like the process, well, Maritza, you participated in it. So what was the process? And then how did we get to, some of the items, like the allocations of the 25K?
I think we all know how to bring, just for sake of time, we all know how to bring items to the council. You brought items to the council, have been very politically driven, but council member Buchan is bringing in a community benefit. Your items have been to discuss the campaign limits, have been to discuss many other like very politically driven items. You're aware on how we can bring them. So that's how it was brought. Two council members worked together on an idea and brought forth this plan. So there's a motion, there's a second. I think we can move
Well,
on from this.
Councilmember
I think
Aguilar,
can-
this is time to talk about it. I
Yeah.
support the item.
I think
completely.
I can further discuss, and then Maritza, she also has a quick presentation. But to answer your question of how it came about, very happy to bring this forward. It's a great event, I think, that will be to honor and celebrate Women's History Month. So it's a women's summit. And the intent behind it is exactly that. We're gonna have a lineup of speakers. They're gonna be from across the board, from Coachella, some from the Valley and outside. And essentially it's to just talk about what it's like to be in different spaces and taking up space. That's the theme. And so really proud of, working with staff. I brought this forward to them, I think, sometime last year, just an idea of what it could look like. I did ask for it to come to the council, and as our city manager mentioned, it was supposed to be an item in January. Unfortunately, it didn't come through, but it's here now. So any other questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer
Yeah,
them.
so the panels, like, do you have an idea or what's being proposed for some of the discussion? Because I would like to
Yeah.
add some. of
Yeah,
that to it.
absolutely.
I'll add to that before you answer, sorry. I just want to make sure, when your question is, and this is incorporated the LGBTQIA women that represent, really focus, make sure we're having representation. We talked about all spectrum, making sure we have that representation also on those panels so that people can see themselves in the panels.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any recommendations, I know that we're still working on, or I'm still working on the lineup for the speakers. So if you have any recommendations, that would be wonderful. We could definitely add them to that.
I want to make sure we recommend Councilwoman Delgado because she, worked in the corporate sector for a long time and she had worked in a space with men in suits. So, make sure that she's incorporated as well as herself, but because she worked in a space where it's men all the time, right? And so I think that's important to address.
Yeah, I think we all have, right? At some point, we've worked in spaces where, only men have historically been a part of. And lucky for me, I've, been, I've had the great opportunity to work with incredible people, and that includes, great professionals like my colleagues who have helped and mentored and also, shared experiences and whatnot. So it's been really helpful in that way. But absolutely, I'm not part of the speaker lineup. That's not my intent. My intent's not to be one of the speakers. It's to put the event together. So that's what I've been working on for some time now. We do have about 6 speakers already that we've been able to get confirmation from. And I'm just very excited to be able to share that with everyone. So absolutely, any recommendation that you may have, definitely send it
So-
over.
I think that we should put it together as a council. I think if we're gonna put 25K, let's bring it back here and then discuss like the speaker lineup and the panels.
Yeah,
I actually oppose that. It would take a lot of time. I think
So-
you can form a committee where, you know, and I
Can
don't
I
know what's going on
offer-
already, but the idea
So
of
really
Yeah.
quickly, let me touch base on that because I definitely understood, you know, that was gonna be a question. This is so for the public that may not, you know, there's a lot of process into a lot of different things and items that we bring forward. I'm not trying to leave absolutely anyone out. My colleagues here on the dais have brought items forward on their own and with a co-sponsor. So that's normally how it works. You bring forward an item, you bring forward an idea, whatever it is that you want to do. And then obviously you bring it to the dais, you work with staff, and that's exactly what I've been doing. So I've been doing that for a few months. This is an event I'm very proud of. I really want to see. There's been a lot of work into it. And so I don't want to get too territorial, but it is an item and it's something that I'm bringing forward and something I've been working on. So just for everyone to understand, it's not that we come together all the time in creating different items or events. It doesn't always work like that. Individually, we work on separate events and separate things. So this is one of the ones that, I'm bringing forward.
Well, I commend you for, what is it, a year and 2 months that you've been on the dais and you're taking a leadership role in actually organizing an event, working with staff, looking for sponsors and bringing something forward. I think the fact that you're taking up that space and doing it under your own initiative is a good thing. You know, it's something that I think a lot of us on the dais can learn from, that, if you want to do something positive, sometimes it takes somebody to be the leader to move something forward. And I know that you're open to working with your colleagues if there's a panel or something that needs to get amended. I think that's okay. But if you want to lead this, it's no different than when Councilmember Galarza led the Cesar Chavez event, and there was a good amount of leadership. I will only say, just to be funny, are men allowed? Yeah, can men go? Men can go?
Sure, I mean,
Yeah.
we're not excluding, the point is not to exclude anyone, that's not the point, but it's to have an event that does honor and celebrate Women's History Month. It's that, it's not to exclude absolutely anyone, I'm not looking to do that. That would, there's no reason to do that, so, sure.
So while it's called the
So
Women's Summit, men are allowed, so I want to make sure that.
So I do wanna, and the reason I say it, Councilmember Virgin, is because I have worked in very male-dominated positions, but it's also, I'm a single mother. And so most people don't know is when I took the corporate job in Maryland, I left there and I was 3 months pregnant. And I lived out there by myself. I raised my daughter by myself. I didn't know anybody out there. But I was a single mom, and that meant that I had to take up a salary and take up for 2 people. And so this is why it's so important to me, because I also know as a single mother what that's like. And, it's difficult. And just quick a note, because I'm talking to male-dominated positions, is I would hide my belly. I wasn't embarrassed that I was pregnant. What I was afraid of is that they were gonna look at me like I couldn't perform at the same level. And that always ate at me. It was like, I can perform just like anybody else there. And so that's why I'm saying, I think it's important just that we have some other voices of females on here, but I fully support anything that advances women. I just want to make sure that we have everyone on there and that we're doing this to the best potential that we can.
Points well
Absolutely.
noted.
Thank you.
Points
And
noted.
just before we finish on this item, I'll ask my colleagues if you have any ideas for sponsorships. I would love to get your support in that way. I think it would mean a lot too from you, Councilwoman Delgado, to reach out to a few folks if you're interested, and ask, if they're willing to sponsor. You don't have to. It's something that, I know you're busy. We're all busy. But I would, love that support from my colleagues. So
Yeah, I would. And then, but in exchange that we do a panel and we get other speakers on there. So that would be the.
no
trade-off.
transactional leadership.
no, I don't, I apologize for that, but maybe, for another event or another opportunity, if you ever want to co-sponsor something, I would be more than willing to do that. You've been on the dais longer than I have. And so, but, I would be willing to go and follow your leadership in an event that you were to bring forward if you want to. But at this point, I'm not going to change the lineup of the event, but
Oh,
thank
no,
you.
just add on someone.
All right, well, you guys,
We already have the lineup, but if to, council, member Figueroa's point, he did mention something incredibly important. And so if he has a recommendation, I would be more than happy to add them on there. I think it's a great idea.
All right, well,
And
do
then
we have a
I-
motion? or
Hold on, I want to lead into something. So I have brought up, because we're talking about it, I have brought up the small business community now for 3 years. For 3 years, in 2020, was 2020, when we got American Rescue Plan Act, we got $10 million. $10 million from federal funding, and we haven't given that money to the small businesses who have been impacted the most. We know during the pandemic, it was the small businesses that got hit the hardest. And I've been asking for that over and over for 3 years. If I go back and count all the times on the council meetings, it would be at least 15 to 20 times. I did come up with something. I did come up with a program to put like meetings and trainings to teach businesses how to apply for business, the permit process, startup money, all these things that most businesses don't know of to help you get started. And it was denied.
Call to order, that has nothing to do with the current item.
But
We
you're
have- we have
asking,
a-
you're
we
asking, and
have
I
a-
did bring something up.
Maybe work with your colleagues a little better. Is there a motion and a second to move this forward, or?
Did you?
I did work with her to try to bring that forward and it hasn't moved forward. So, I just want to make sure that that program gets moved forward because there's a lot of people, we're going to talk about a small business stuff in the next public hearing. So I really want to make sure that that small business, that work gets on the ground moving so that we can push that through because there's a lot of people that one might have a small business, two want to work, and there might be minority led and they're women led. So I want to make sure that women led small businesses are being pushed forward because there's a lot of them out there. And I think that's very important. But I have worked with my colleague, that Councilwoman Delgado, about pushing that forward. So just want to make sure that we push that forward.
The first time you've articulated it. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Yeah,
Can
I
I
made a
just-
motion.
I made a
And
second.
there's a
Okay,
second.
thank
Can
you.
we get a roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Delgado,
Yes,
Councilmember Galarza,
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Virgen,
Aye.
Mayor Hernandez.
Aye. We'll move forward now on authorize the city manager to execute a letter purchase agreement for 18 Model T Teslas.
I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a Second.
Just to point of clarification, we're going from enterprise to direct purchase.
Correct.
Just for clarification.
And we're getting one more test.
And we're getting one more. for the
And we're
same-
also getting 4 charging stations.
Yes.
And
and then,
this
so,
is as a result of this is actually as a result of the Pueblo Viejo project.
Grant funds, that is
Grant
correct.
funds. And the TCC funds have not been realized yet, so that's something later on.
That will be forthcoming later.
Yes, so at this point, I think what we need to understand next is what does the rideshare program look like? And what that program is gonna look like, and I'd like to see that next meeting so that we can understand fully how that program's gonna work.
and so just some understanding, Marissa, we purchase them, but we don't keep them.
Correct. We are
They're
going
gonna
to
be,
give them to one of our partners, which is the Leap Institute, who will then manage that rideshare program.
will we still own them or would they own it?
They will own them.
And then, so when we purchase them, how are we make that transaction for them, for the ownership to go from us
The
to?
title gets placed in their name.
And then at that point, are they also gonna submit or provide the ride sharing program and the details themselves?
Yes, we'll work with them to bring you some more information on that program,
Okay, perfect, thank you.
of course.
All right, we'll move forward. There's a motion, there's a second. Can we get a roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Delgado,
Yes,
Councilmember Galarza,
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Virgen,
Aye.
Mayor Hernandez.
Aye. Move forward on item number 17. This is authorizing the city manager to submit a application for the County of Riverside Fiscal Year Community Block Grant Program. We had a nice study session about this. I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Actually, this is a public hearing item. Let me go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item number 17? This is to provide for City of Coachella Home Enhancement Program, $267,000. Is there any public speakers? Seeing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm gonna ask for a roll call. I'm sorry, a motion. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Delgado,
yes,
Councilmember Galarza,
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Virgen,
Aye.
Mayor Hernandez.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on now to item number 18. This is ordinance number 1209 sidewalk vendor regulations. Resolution number 2024-01 sidewalk vendors and the application fee. Gabriel, let me just say before we begin, I want to thank everybody who participated in this process. It's been a pretty good 90-day process from both sides, both folks that want to see sidewalk vendors and also the business community that was very integral in this conversation. Moreover, I want to thank the Planning Commission for having, I think, 2 to 3 in-depth conversations and really vetting this issue. And I really think they set the stage. So with that, Gabriel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council. This item is a sidewalk vendor regulations. It's adopting an ordinance regarding those regulations. And I'll go through a lot of this pretty quickly. We've had a lot of study sessions on this, presented this to the council on various times. But if you want me to slow down anywhere, please let me know. The background to this is in 2018, the California legislature did pass Senate Bill 946, and that prohibits cities like the city of Coachella from regulating sidewalk vendors, except under certain circumstances. Those circumstances would be time, place, and manner regulations that are directly related to objective health, safety, and welfare concerns that wouldn't restrict sidewalk vending to occur in the city. Just some background before that, if you wanted to be a vendor or sell food, a lot of that would happen in a brick or mortar facility in the city. A lot of that is in the city's municipal code, and that's common throughout the state of California. This changes that. There was another bill that was passed, SB 972 in 2023, where it was actually enacted, and that allowed for or loosened the requirements for being a sidewalk vendor and selling food. So it does allow for certain food preparation activities, streamlining the permitting process for that. And so some of that means that certain sidewalk vendors, if it's considered a compact mobile facility with 25 square feet or less of display area, so those are more like packaged goods, no longer required to obtain a health permit. And also compact mobile food operations could now do certain limited food preparation. And there are standards for that with the county, but those would be facilities that operate from a push cart, stand display, pedal driven cart, and wagon. So what is a sidewalk vendor? So there are 2 definitions under the state law. One is a sidewalk vendor, which would be stationary, means a person who sells food or merchandise from a push cart, stand, display, pedal driven cart, wagon, showcase, a rack or non-motorized conveyance, or from one person upon a public sidewalk or other pedestrian path. So remember, this is not on private property. This is on public property outside the street, but within the public right of way. So there's also the roaming sidewalk vendor, and that's defined as a sidewalk vendor who moves from place to place. So not stationary, moving place to place, only stops to make a transaction. So besides a sidewalk vendor, what do we currently allow in the municipal code? We currently allow for home occupations. We've had this in the code for a long time. It allows someone to have a business out of their home. But that doesn't include selling food. So you can get a business license for that. There is also state law around cottage food operations, and these are really foods that are more like dry foods that may be prepared at a home. And so under that state law, we do have provisions in our code that allow for that. But you also have to get a California Department of Public Health, where you have to get a health permit. Our requirements for that is you get that permit, you get a business license, and the business applicant has to be a resident of the home. There is a distance requirement from another cottage food operator of 600 feet, but there are also exceptions to that. And that would require a public hearing by the planning commission. So there are only 4 cottage food operators, and this is from a list from the county.
Can you go back to that
Mhm.
list really quickly? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so there's not a substantial amount of businesses that are considered cottage food operators. So this is what is actually permitted through the city and the county. There in residential zones, there's another type of enterprise that's allowed to operate out of homes, and this is considered a micro enterprise home kitchen. This is something that is now allowed under state law with AB 626. And in this case, you can prepare food at home and cook it, and you could sell it there as long as you make it directly available to the public, but no more than 30 meals per day or 60 meals per week. The city hasn't adopted a local ordinance for that, but we have to default to state law because we don't have our own local ordinance. It does require that an micro enterprise permit be issued from the Riverside County Health Department, food safety management certification by the operation owner. There's no advertising that is permitted with this type of enterprise. And when we researched this with the county health department, we realized there are 2 of these micro enterprise home kitchens. So ice cream truck operators. So this is another type of business that is permitted to sell food. That's not in your typical brick and mortar establishment. And so we've had these provisions in the code for quite a while. And there are restrictions for operating ice cream trucks within the city. And some of those requirements mean getting a permit as an ice cream truck operator from the city. It does require a health department permit, driver's license, insurance policy, background check. There are distance requirements for ice cream trucks. That's a 300-foot distance from schools and churches during operating hours and 30 minutes before and after those operating hours. It's prohibited in parks and playgrounds and recreation facilities. So as far as sidewalk vendors, under the state law, this is what the city cannot regulate. The city cannot regulate prohibiting outright sidewalk vending. We have to allow for it. We can't impose requirements due to economic competition concerns. And we cannot require a sidewalk vendor to obtain approval from a non-governmental entity. But this is what we can regulate. We can regulate hours of operation, sanitation requirements, compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act requirements, require sidewalk vending permit and a business license, California Department of Tax and Fee Administration seller's permit, require additional licenses from state or local agencies such as the county health department, and also require that the vendor provide information on their proposed operations. Some background, there was some community outreach done with respect to the ordinance that is presented before the city council. So on September 26th of last year, 2023, there was a community forum that was held at the library. There was a mix of brick and mortar businesses as well as advocates for sidewalk vendors that were present. And there were different recommendations that were presented in that forum, and staff was present to be able to hear those recommendations. Some of the recommendations also consider a lower sidewalk vendor permit fee. There was a planning commission study session, and they had their recommendations, which included ensuring that there's liability insurance requirements. At one time, we were considering dropping that requirement, but the planning commission felt that that was reasonable, considering a high permit fee for sidewalk vendors, and also reducing the warnings to vendors to 1 warning if there's a violation, and then also to establish a pathway for sidewalk vendors to locate into a brick and mortar facility. So not just adopt the ordinance, but that there's some follow-up with the sidewalk vendors in being able to establish a small business in a facility. So this is what the draft ordinance does. It does modify 3 titles of the municipal code. And one is the business license regulations, the other is health and safety, and the other is streets, sidewalks, and public places. Originally, when this item was presented to city council in 2020, it was considering a cap on the number of sidewalk vendors. We are no longer proceeding with that. So there is no longer a cap on either roaming sidewalk vendors or sidewalk vendors in general. So as far as the permits that would be required under the ordinance before you, it would require a business license, a sidewalk vending permit. It would also require a California seller's permit with the sales tax number issued by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. As far as identification, we would accept driver's license, a passport, or a tax ID number. Also a permit from the county health department. We would require a site plan of the vending location that they're able to make the clearances for ADA of 36 inches. And also a general liability insurance policy of $1 million. As far as permitted locations, this is what the ordinance would allow. It would allow them to locate for stationary vendors in non-residential zones and mixed-use zones. And that's because a lot of our retail establishments are located there that are stationary. It would require leaving a 36 inches of accessible path of travel. Distances would be required to be maintained of 25 feet from building entrances, private driveways, fire or police station driveways. A 10-foot distance from fire hydrants, fire escapes, bus stops, loading zones, and handicap parking spaces. A lot of that's for safety reasons and also building concerns. 40-foot distance from street and highway intersections, which I will go into in a few slides from this. 150-foot distance from farmers markets, swap meets, and temporary event permit type events. Also, that the location of the stationary sidewalk vendor must be within 500 feet of a existing private parking lot. Additional requirements would be that there be a 300-foot distance requirement for any stationary vendor from schools. And this would be so that it's similar to what we have on the books for ice cream vendors, those restrictions. And then also 200-foot distance from freeway on-ramps and off-ramps. And this was recommended by the city engineer for safety reasons. So as far as the distance I mentioned from street corners, so if you look at this figure right here, we identify 40 feet from a corner cutoff area. This is what a corner cutoff area would be. So this is Avenue 50 and Sartavia Street. So a sidewalk vendor, a stationary vendor would not be able to establish their stand in that blue location. And this is due to pedestrians that would be crossing the street, making sure that the paths of travel are not blocked at those intersections. And so in the ordinance, we do provide an image of what that would look like. So it's very clear to the community and any interested sidewalk vendors of what that requirement is. As far as the 36-inch clear, this shows you what our sidewalk section looks like in our engineering standards. So most of our sidewalks are about 6 feet wide. So this is what it would look like to maintain a 36-inch clear area. There would also be restrictions with respect to operating in parks. And so the state law does allow for cities to regulate sidewalk vendors in parks where there is an existing exclusive contract for concessions. And that would be in 2 parks, Bagduma Park and Rancho Las Flores. So where there are no concession agreements are most of the other parks, which would be as listed, Avenue 53, Tot Lot, Sierra Vista Park, Datelid Park, Del Oro, and Veterans Memorial Park.
Even though the law, it doesn't allow for us to exclude due to competition, we are allowed to exclude in parks due to competition.
It's It's a specific carve out that the law did make for that. But I understand your point. And that
But it's so that the sports leagues can sell too.
Yeah.
That's why we do that.
It's what the city has an exclusive contract, so it's not a private, the city has an exclusive contract with a vendor to operate in that part, concessions. I imagine they probably did this because probably LA has kind of big concession stand. There was probably a reason. I imagine the big cities probably have big concession stands in some of their parks, and they contract that out. And so the state law provided for that exception.
And I do understand why some people would be added on, but then we would be taking away businesses from the leagues and they are fundraising for, events with the kids. So that's understood why at these two parks, it's not allowed.
Yeah, I mean, as staff feels that it is allowed in most of the city parks as listed here. So we're comfortable with that requirement. As far as locations within the city, we did prepare a map to get an idea of where sidewalk vendors could locate based on the zoning requirements, some of the locational requirements. So this map in front of you shows what that would look like. And a lot of it's going to be based on other requirements, right? So, but this is generally going to give you an idea of where they can locate. So I'll identify in yellow, those are our residential districts throughout the city. So remember that roaming sidewalk vendors are the only vendors that can locate or operate in those areas. So sometimes you might see like someone with a stationary cart selling fruit outside a residential neighborhood. That wouldn't be permitted under this ordinance. They would have to be a roaming vendor using a push cart that moves around. Now, they would be allowed in a non-residential district, which is in pink on this map. And those are our commercial districts within the city. Areas like Travis Street and Grapefruit Boulevard and 6th Street, those stationary sidewalk vendors could be permitted. But remember, there's other factors to consider. It has to be 500 feet away from a private parking lot. And also you have to consider it needs to be at least 40 feet away from an intersection.
So just for a clarification, roaming so if I have a cart that like rides like a bicycle, that would be considered so I can get on it and then move around in a roaming sense, like so that I could then go into the yellow area and then drive around, walk around with it.
It's not supposed to be pedal driven or motorized.
Well,
so it's
in theory, like if I can push it.
yes.
Okay,
you
as
could
long
do
as I
that.
can push it, it's fine.
Correct. And then what's illustrated is also the public parks that would be allowed. So remember Rancho Las Flores and Bagduma Park, because of the existing concession agreements with the leagues, it would be allowed in those two parks. So here are some other sidewalk
Only during field use time?
All the time.
regardless of the field use.
But so if they don't have any concession stands on non-field use days, nobody else can go there?
No. And again, this is as proposed by staff. So if there are comments by council on this, those regulations could be amended. The other sidewalk vending requirements are included, making sure it's clean and orderly, maintaining sanitary conditions. There are no tables, chairs, fences, and shade structures that would be permitted. And so a lot of the sidewalk vendors that people often imagine in the city or currently see, a lot of them have shade structures, tables, and chairs that actually wouldn't be permitted under the code. And there's a lot of safety reasons for that. Exterior storage would be prohibited, and no discharging of liquid into city streets, storm drains, or catch basins and sewer facilities. Code enforcement is experiencing a lot of situations where there are vendors that are discharging grease into the streets or into the curbs or onto just an empty lot. So as far as roaming sidewalk vendors, as I mentioned, they could operate in both non-residential and residential zones. The hours of operation would be from 7 to 6 p.m. In residential zones specifically. In non-residential zones, they would It would be a little bit more flexible, starting at 5 AM and then ending at 11 PM. And so the reason why it's more restricted in residential zones for obvious reasons, right? It's a more sensitive use. And the sidewalk vendor does not conduct sales from a public street. As far as penalties, these are the penalties that are derived from the state law, so we can't charge any more than this. So for violating the sidewalk vending ordinance, here are the fees. So first violations start at $100 all the way up to $500. If you do not have a sidewalk vending permit and you're operating, these would be the fees. First violation is $250 all the way up to $1,000. The planning commission did provide some recommendations. Originally, staff was considering allowing 2 warnings. Planning commission would like that to be 1 warning. And there is a correction I want to make in the ordinance. It does still mention the 2 warnings, but the planning commission does recommend 1. These are the sidewalk vendor permit fees that are being recommended. The city council, we are recommending that you do not adopt the resolution today because we were informed there are additional notice and requirements for that resolution. So that will come back to you.
Okay, so we can just open the hearing at this point?
Yeah, yes.
At this point, I'm gonna open the hearing at 7:01. We're gonna leave it open. Is there anyone that would like to address us in the city council?
Oh, give me just one moment. I will call everyone up because I received multiple speaker forms. Okay, I'm just gonna start off by saying we did receive 2 public comments written. We're not gonna read them out loud, but one of them is from Alejandro Mejia Aguilar in regards to this item, and they were in favor of the item. The other one is from Ellen Reese, professor and acting vice chair of Department of Society of Environment and Health Equity, also in favor of this item. This was received by email on February 13th, and it has been shared with council.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker.
We have Alejandro Mesa Aguilar.
Alejandro,
You can please come up. Everyone, you have 3 minutes, please. Do we have the clock that we can set up? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Mesa Aguilar. I'm the Coachella Valley organizer for ICIJ, the Young Coalition for Immigrant Justice. I wanted to start off by thanking the city council and city staff for working with us throughout on this ordinance for about a year now, I think. The first issue I wanted to focus on is the permit price needs to be accessible throughout the lifespan of the ordinance. I know that the planning committee added a 5% mechanism, and that's the reason why, they don't want it to pass currently. I wanted to make sure that when this mechanism comes onto the ordinance, that there's a meeting when the price increases to about 25% to just check in with vendors and see if it's still accessible. And if, if there's any economic changes such as a recession, inflation, deflation that could impact vendors and how they can access the permit, and just checking in. The second issue is accessibility to pay language should be included in the educational material. Citations and the recent addition of the website tab on the city website, along with language being accessible in both English and Spanish, minimally. Because I know that there's people who speak Purepecha and other indigenous languages. We need to make sure the ordinance allows for 300 linear feet of distance from the concession stands, or has other accessible language like other cities have made, such as having roaming vendors, or making sure that vendors have different fare than the concession stands, and having a reasonable amount of distance where the competition between the concession stands is fair. I know that other cities have taken on the issue differently. Coachella can go upon any other way, like maybe having an itinerary about who works when, and making sure that vendors are blocked from that time that the concession stand operates, or just even having the linear feet allows for a good amount of time for people to distinguish the differences between both.
Alejandro, are you in number 3, just so I understand it correctly? You're asking us to further restrict one of the vendors so that
Not further restrict, more about giving vendors the opportunity to sell, because they are impacted about the amount of optimal infrastructure that there is in the city. I know that the little graph that we had showed very few public parks and a lot of residential zones, so that does limit people, as opposed to other cities like, say, Palm Springs, where there's a larger downtown area with optimal vending zone infrastructure. And lastly, I wanted to make sure that the component of the hours is also updated because California Code 51038, I want to say sections 1 states in non-residential areas, any limitations on the hours of operation for sidewalk vending shall not be more restrictive than any limitation on hours of operation imposed on other businesses or uses on the same street, such as, say, a franchise or anything like that. I just hope that this ordinance can be closer to equitable, and I look forward to seeing the changes being made.
Alejandro, can you do us a favor and print those comments and submit them to the record? That way we can have them.
Of course.
This hearing is gonna stay open, so we don't have to deliberate today. But thank you for your comments. Are there any other speakers?
Yes, we do. We have Brian Lopez.
Lopez? Lopez? Next speaker?
Okay, it's Brian Lopez from Taco Titan. Not here?
Over Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Can we check Zoom, please?
Brian. where he
Brian
is.
Sanchez?
No,
Uh,
there's
Or
another
Brian
Brian.
Guess?
Can we have
Okay.
Brian raise his hand?
Brian from Taco Titan, if you can raise your hand, please.
Brian, welcome.
Is he allowed to speak now?
Yes, go ahead and
Okay,
unmute.
Go ahead, Brian.
Brian, if you can go ahead and speak or maybe be unmuted. Brian, if you would like to submit your comments as well, please write them out and then we'll accept them during the public hearing next meeting. Any other speakers?
Those are all the speaker slips that I have for item number 18.
Okay, we're gonna go to close the public hearing. This item is gonna be continued to the next meeting. Is there a motion to continue?
A motion to continue the item.
There's,
There's-
Mayor, can I mention something? Staff isn't recommending continuance. All we're recommending is that you decide on the ordinance. The resolution is gonna come back to you for the fee.
I'd like to take it all in one shot. We will motion to continue for the next meeting. The public hearing is closed. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Can we get a roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Delgado,
Yes.
Councilmember Galarza.
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Virgen,
Aye.
Mayor Hernandez.
I will move forward on
I
public
just really
comments.
quick to the public, I know there's a lot of businesses here, whether you're in support or against. Some of you own restaurants, brick and mortar restaurants, some of you have carts, some of you have ice cream trucks. I would really, really like to hear from you. So if you can submit a letter, send an email, it'd be really beneficial, or you can reach out too. I think our email addresses are on the website, and if not, I can give it to you, but this is for you, and so I would like to hear from all of you.
Or be here at the next meeting and we'll let you speak. With that, we'll move on to public comments. Gio, I know you're here. Miguel, I know you're here. You brought everybody. And you are the spokesperson, so I'm gonna allow you to speak. And then
I do have public speaker forms for these as well. So if you.
we'll allow
could-
Miguel to speak first. Go ahead, Miguel.
Okay.
Manuel, Manuel.
Manuel Montaño. Okay.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Manuel Montaño, soy el presidente de Coachella Valley Soccer League. Nos encontramos aquí esta noche porque que comentaron ustedes lo pasado, llegó un papel que en una junta que tuvimos en el Parques y Recreaciones, nosotros pidiendo el miércoles para la liga, para que los niños jugaran, y el sábado y ocurrió algo que en verdad nos cayó de sorpresa. Nos cayó de sorpresa porque está de que nosotros no teníamos el sábado. Entonces, por 4 años, nosotros jugamos el sábado sin permiso, ¿entiendes? Y es algo que nos cayó de sorpresa a todos. Y como miran, aquí están la mayoría de los delegados de los niños, están los papás, están todos aquí. El problema es que a lo mejor hubo una mala comunicación o algo, y vino este papel equivocadamente aquí. No quiero poner nombres ahorita ni apuntar a nadie, nomás quiero que consideren
que el sábado, si no lo quitan ustedes, van a dejar a los niños sin jugar. Van a dejar 800 niños sin jugar. Aparte, yo lo he escuchado, he hablado con la mayoría de vírgenes nueva. Tengo el gusto de conocerla apenas, Nectalí Galarza, a Denise ya la conocemos, a Fran Figueroa también la mayor. Que nos ayuden. Ustedes creen en la igualdad, pero no nos han ayudado en la igualdad. Hemos estado tantos años aquí, en las sombras, nosotros. ¿Sabes cuántas canchas tenemos en Rancho de las Flores? Tenemos 3 canchas en Rancho de las Flores. Marcos Zamudio hace un gran trabajo ahí pintando canchas para niños. Nos han parado y ustedes. Traemos firmas de la comunidad, nos tuvimos que mover porque nos cayó de sorpresa lo que ustedes comentaron. Ahora yo lo único que pido, ayúdenos. ¿Creen en la igualdad? Ayúdenos. ¿Ustedes creen que con 3 canchas, ahora teniendo más de 180 equipos, que estamos creciendo la liga, con 3 canchas, Maritza Martínez ha hecho un buen trabajo, nos ha ayudado a ambas ligas. Maritza ha trabajado con ambas ligas. Bien. Ahora les toca a ustedes trabajar, ayudarnos. Si ustedes quieren dejar a esos niños sin el sábado, porque fue una frustración grande estar hablándoles para que los niños jugaran el sábado, porque estamos sin finales. Y no es posible que cada vez que quieren jugar los niños haya alguien, un obstáculo. No es posible. Estamos cansados, por eso estamos aquí. Nunca nos paramos aquí. En verdad. Ayúdenos, creen en la igualdad, saquen sus matemáticas, muy fácil. En verdad, muy fácil. No quiero hablar de más, en verdad. Vengo enojado, no quiero hablar de más, pero ayúdenos. Hemos hablado con varios de ustedes afuera, pero estamos aquí de frente y no nos ayudan.
En todos los que están aquí, si están en favor y si están en acuerdo con lo que dice Manuel, por favor de levantar la mano. Todos. Sí, allá afuera también
Oye,
hay, ¿cuántos hay allá? Otros 100. Son otros 50. Ok. Nosotros también buscamos la igualdad y de ser parejo entre las 2 ligas. Porque lo bonito es que han crecido demasiado las 2 ligas y ustedes, yo me acuerdo cuando comenzaron, estaban un poquito más pequeños, pero están creciendo. Entonces buscamos la igualdad y parejo, Maritza. Entonces, si quieres venir para acá
Señor
enfrente,
Ignacio, usted también
para
va a
que-
tener chance para hablar.
Okay.
Para,
That way we talk afterwards and we let everyone speak.
Okay.
Para aclarar lo que vino la otra vez, Manuel, fue permiso para usar los campos después del tiempo de que lo usaba la comunidad, pero no me recuerdo que estaba de sábado ahí,
Sí, estaba el sábado, no, como se explicó para nosotros en la junta anterior, es que nadie usaba el sábado. Manuel me explicó que ellos han estado usando el sábado por los últimos 4 años. Entonces fue noticia para Manuel que nosotros aprobamos, nosotros no le quitamos el sábado, nomás aprobamos a que siguiera como está, pero la confusión, o nosotros, como se presentó al concilio, fue que el sábado no era día de uso para los. Entonces, como votamos para eso, ahora se les iba a quitar el sábado a ellos, o se iba a hacer en force lo que pasó, pero podemos debatir o platicar ya que terminen de platicar para que demos tiempo.
sí,
Sí.
para que todos tengan chance de decir,
Nomás
de
un
hablar.
último comentario. En ese mismo es que el miércoles, es porque la comunidad, que son ellos, que vienen a ser la comunidad, nosotros los representamos, en verdad. No es posible que nosotros no tengamos, nomás tenemos uso lunes, lunes, viernes y domingo.
Sí.
Y no tengamos otro día más. Entonces, por eso pedimos el miércoles y que se extendiera el sábado hasta las 4 o 5 de la tarde. Si ustedes van, los parques están solos.
Lo que queremos es que las 2 ligas son parejos y igual.
This is public
And
comment.
so,
Yeah.
pero,
Sí.
so,
Let's
next speaker.
get to the
Ok,
comments.
muchas gracias.
Yeah.
Gracias, Manuel.
Thank you.
We'll get to public comments
Okay.
and then council wants to give some
Okay.
comments on direction. and we can look at that.
La siguiente persona que tenemos aquí en la lista es Ignacio Velázquez. Y todos van a tener 3 minutos para dirigir al concilio.
Pero todos están en, so I'm gonna do a point of order here. on the Brown Act. Everybody's here in favor of the same thing.
Yes.
We have two representatives, and I think that's enough of the public comments, because everybody else is in
Mi
favor.
nombre es Ignacio Velázquez. Ya tengo aquí representando más de la liga, más de 30 años en la liga, en esa forma. Antes, si ustedes se ponen a ver, antes teníamos los dos campos. ¿Cómo se ve por ahorita? Ahora, tú mencionaste que se encuentran las ligas parejas. ¿Y qué es las ligas parejas? ¿Cómo está una? ¿Cómo está la otra? Porque en primer lugar, enséñenme las cuentas ustedes de la otra liga y ellos que les enseñen la cuenta a ustedes, si están parejas, en primer lugar. Si están parejas, en cuentas. De una forma. ¿Por qué? Simplemente en la 53. ¿En qué forma ha sido la 53? Ni idea tienen ustedes, a lo mejor, pero no importa. Ahora, el punto que voy, simplemente nosotros en la liga, Coachella Soccer League, tenemos Rancho Las Flores, 2 campos nomás en la 53. Y todavía ellos hacen su trabajo y ustedes no lo dejan trabajar. Ahora, voy con el Ranger también. A nosotros, ¿cómo nos presiona? Y yo con Alma, voy con Alma con la otra liga y él nunca se aparece, nunca está. Y con nosotros, ahí está con nosotros. Todo el tiempo, presionando. Y estoy de acuerdo, está haciendo su trabajo. Pero ¿por qué la otra liga no va a presionarlo? Lo mismo. Que yo he estado con la otra liga también. He ido a ver los juegos. ¿Por qué nunca miro al Juan allá y con nosotros sí? Pero el punto que voy en esa forma, déjenlos trabajar a ellos y den la oportunidad. Y lo que dijo Montaño, especialmente a los niños. Los niños. Ya la oportunidad a los niños.
Estamos de acuerdo.
Ya.
Ok, gracias.
Gracias.
Yes, Porfirio Burgón.
Porfirio.
tardes.
La liga, yo como papá, que tengo a mis 2 niños y como coach. Aquí, gracias a Dios, vinieron 2 papás de los míos. Y pues yo sí voy a comentar algo que a lo mejor ellos no dijeron. A mí por ahí me llegó la información que la liga, que yo firmé un papel, un documento con ustedes, de que supuestamente nosotros, yo y mis papás firmaron que pedíamos que nos quitaran ese día. En fin, la verdad sí, nos truncan a nuestros hijos porque en vez de andar haciendo otras cosas, los tenemos ahí pendientes, jugando, concentrados. Igual, yo también estuve con Alma, jugué con Alma, tienen como 50,000 campos, tienen todas las ligas del mundo y nosotros apenas tenemos pocos y ahora nos están reduciendo. No sé qué pasará ahí, no se han animado a decir si ellos metieron mano, pero pues solamente que tomen en cuenta que nos dejen trabajar nosotros como papás o como coach con los niños. Juntamos todos los papás, no pudieron entrar o no pudieron venir porque no cabemos,
Sí.
pero muchos querían venir. ¿Por qué? Porque la verdad sí se nos hace injusto lo que está sucediendo.
Gracias, a nosotros también.
Gracias.
Next speaker, is this on the same topic?
Yes, we have 3 more speakers on the same
¿Y
topic.
todos en acuerdo? Los tres, go ahead.
Marcos Zamudio.
Marcos, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcos Zamudio. I represent CBSL. I'm the vice president. You know, me and Manuel been with this league for a long time since we, formed the league. I just want to give you guys a little brief information on our league. You know, we have, since we started this league and we got into the city under the MOU, it was back in 2020. Before that, we were working, 3 years prior to that. When we got into the city in 2020, we asked, they asked us what days we wanted. We asked for Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays. Why? Because Tuesdays and Thursdays, we didn't care about Tuesdays and Thursdays. We want to leave it open for the public, for our teams to practice and all that. And we didn't want nothing to interfere with the other league, because we always don't want to affect nothing on the other league. So right now, we have 45 youth teams, 50-something plus teams of adults combined. It's close to 100 teams. We have 3 fields in Rancho Las Flores, three size fields. I have to make, miracles to makes 6 fields, 3 regular standard size fields plus three youth. And one of those fields, it has to be inside a regular. So we can't utilize those 2 fields at the same time. So we're coordinating everything. You guys just don't know, the stuff that we have to go through, and now that you guys are, taking away the Saturday that we always had and leaving us with Fridays, Sundays and Mondays. And then on top of that, you got like Duma with 7 fields, 7 fields. You guys tell me if that's fair, if that's being equal. We've been asking for more fields for probably 2 to 3 years already, because we've been growing, we've been growing. And now with this, maybe it was a miscommunication on the last council meeting, but we had a meeting with the other league and the community. You guys know the community, right? The people that are representing holding the community right now. We had to come to agreement on how we were gonna, be able for us to use more field and more time. So the agreement was to extend the hours on Saturday, because we only had it from 8 to 2, and then we didn't have Wednesday, which we never gave up Wednesday. And somehow it was taken away from us, and now Saturday. So, all we ask is for you guys to give us back. I collected 489 signatures from all the parents from our soccer league, from our community that we represent.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you, Marco.
so-
Everyone has 3 minutes.
I know it's a short time, but I got a lot to say. And the thing is that a lot of times, like he says, sometimes you guys don't make yourselves available, or it seems like you guys are not interested in what's going on in our league.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. Our next speaker is Pedro Sanchez.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Pedro. My kids, I have 2 sons, both of them play for Rancho Las Flores. They're very active. Thank you to the league, my kids have evolved. They came out of their shell. If you guys take away their soccer time, I don't know if they will just go back to being reclusive. In addition, my oldest son does play for both leagues, and he's very busy. Thanks to Rancho Las Flores, they were able to accept him to a team, whereas Bagduma or Seesaw, they're very select on what kids they take. They don't accept kids if they don't have no talent. Unfortunately, my kid has no talent, and thank you Leanne for accepting my kids. If you can, please be considerate, consider keeping the schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Thank you. And
Last
the
speaker.
last speaker form that I have is for Julian Plasencia. Julian?
Good afternoon. My name is Julian Plasencia. I own Desert Dragons Club at Rancho Las Flores. I used to be on the other league, and I want to service to parents about my kids' health and their things on it. So when they tell us about what was going on with taking off our kids' days of games to Friday, Sunday, and Monday, it's not fair for my kids to only play those days, especially Sunday, because the other league has games too, and my kids like to play, so I got them into both leagues. I'm on the Rancho La Quinta, but my kids play on the other league. But there's a lot of unfairness things, because I was on the other league for 7 years, and I changed to this one, and everything that you guys do at the meetings, because I was one of the last meetings a while ago, where you guys do things for the board leagues about the money they do make and all that. And I talked to some of you guys about what the other league was doing, how much profit they were doing. If it wasn't a nonprofit, why are they charging a lot of money? These guys lower down their prices. When you guys say lower down your prices because we're not gonna charge you lights or pills, the other league went up instead of going down. And you guys are not being fair with them neither. So you guys gotta consider that both leagues have the same thing. They have parents, kids playing, and they need the same laws and things that you guys do to support both leagues. And you can take our kids away from their parks, because those are community parks. Your community decides if they want them to have games or not. parks doesn't get used so much, a lot on the community days. And they're getting our kids in there so they can play. So they can be out there instead of being on drugs or other things. And they've been supporting a lot of our kids. Their prices are great. All those things with that pay, the charge they do, that's the prices they give for our kids is great. They're fair with all the kids. They don't do things like the other league do. They give better prices to certain people and not the kids. The kids are the ones that deserve all the prices, everything they deserve, all the things they buy for them. So this league deserves the same thing as the other league. So our kids deserve to be on it.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
With that, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comments and
We
then.
do, just for the record, we have another public comment that was written. This was sent in January 24th from Frances Fernandez. She is the Senior Public Affairs Specialist and Social Media Coordinator from South Coast Air Quality Management District. This email has been shared with everyone. It's within the 250 word limit, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it since that's what we have on our agenda. It says, "Good morning. On behalf of the South Coast AQMD, I would like to submit the following attachment as part of the written public comment portion of the next city council meeting. This highlights our January 31st deadline for owners and operators of warehouses located in South Coast AQMD's jurisdiction with greater than or equal to 100,000 square feet of indoor floor space to submit reporting info in accordance to Rule 2305, warehouse actions and investments to reduce emissions program to reduce emissions of nitrogen oxides and diesel particulate matter from warehouses." And she did also attach a flyer.
Yeah, with that, I'll close the public comments. I'll ask, Councilmember Figueroa.
Councilmember comments?
Yeah.
I just have a few right up to see it. I know we had a lot of rain recently, so I had my mosquito vector control district meeting this week. Just reminding people, all the rain that they had, make sure they go in their backyard and toss out any water, because that does breed for mosquitoes. I am recommending the city manager. I know there was an email about touring the mosquito vector control district office, so we can try to see if we can schedule and see what council members can go and other city staff, especially Maritza, and see how she can partner with vector control on future stuff and how do we keep vector down here in Coachella. I was able to tour what is Legacy Borrego DAP Health Clinic now on Calhoun actually today. I took the tour of that clinic and really want to make sure how we emphasize the usage of that and get people to use that clinic because it's a very busy clinic there today. So I went in there today. I was able to go to the Public Safety for CBAG meeting this week. Took a tour of the Indio Public Safety Campus and what their services have there. So that was that there, and I do have some items for Mayor Buchanan about your women's conference, so I'll send you some emails.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
And then about los parques, a mí me invitó Manuel a la posada de su liga y yo sé lo importante que es los juegos y el soccer y su liga para los niños, ¿verdad? Porque oímos de un padre que dijo que salió su hijo de su show y eso, y muchos de los papás y los coaches me dijeron cómo la liga ha impactado a los niños. Hay unos que tienen mucho potencial, pero hay muchos que si no hubiera esta oportunidad, ellos no salen, sus social skills and all that kind of stuff doesn't come out. And so I think it's very important, and I'm very thankful that you all came today.
Thank you. Councilmember Virgen?
I'll be a little.
No, actually, no, let me change the order. Sorry. Councilmember Delgado, that's my bad.
So back to the small business policy or ordinance, Mr. City Manager, I would like that to come back. I've been asking for maybe how many years? 3 years? Yeah, 3 years. And so we had allocated $500,000 to support the small business community. So I would like to put together how we can distribute it. I, like Councilmember Virgin, have spent a lot of time on it. And there are some folks in here that participated in the small business community meeting to get some ideas about what's needed the training, helping with permits, startup money, for some of the brick and mortar businesses, helping them financially. I know that they've been struggling quite a bit. They got hit hard during the pandemic. And these are serious issues that we need to address. There are families that are affected. We have mom and dads that are affected. We have their kids that are affected. You know, these businesses are all run usually by entire families. So tío, tía, todos trabajan en el negocio y están afectados, es la verdad. Y so tenemos $500,000 del, del, yeah, I don't know how to say that. Dinero que vino del federal, del gobierno federal. Y,
Fondos del
fondos.
rescate
But it's a American
americano.
Rescue Plan Act, so it's how do you say that?
Thank you.
So recibimos 10 millones de dólares y todavía no hemos dado dinero para los negocios pequeños. Y so ahí tenemos que poner mucha atención, así como igual como lo hicieron para el cannabis, así igual. Y siempre digo lo mismo, ponieron tanta atención para cannabis. So si vas al website, it's an entire website dedicated to just cannabis. How to get a permit, how to get some funding, all of it is there. And I could never understand that. You know, do we need some of that taxes? Yeah, we do. But we have families who are being affected. I want you guys to be able to access this information just by going to the website, by asking and getting everything that you need to apply. So if you need a permit with the city, to have that there. If you need to get a permit from the county, to have that there. And so I know that we put something together, Gabriel, and so I can have a meeting with you so we can bring that back. And Councilmember Figueroa was part of that too. I do want to address the soccer league as well, is that, Manuel, los conocimos de 2016, cuando estaba en la Comisión de Parques y Recreo. Y te conocí porque en ese tiempo no querían dejar Coachella Valley Soccer League. Y yo no entendía por qué, porque yo trabajo con niños cada día. Y solamente quieren jugar soccer. For PE, they play soccer. So, los dejo jugar y con las niñas doy vueltas para dejar a los niños jugar. Pero tenemos muchos niños que vienen de Mexicali, de Sinaloa, de muchos lugares, y muchos no tienen sus padres aquí, so viven con sus tías. Y esos niños juegan lo mejor. They play so good. They dedicate themselves completely to soccer. So I understand the importance of it, and I've dedicated myself for the first few years just when it came to soccer leagues. No me gustan que siempre están peleando sobre las dos ligas, porque para mí es de recreo, es para los niños, es para la familia. Yo no entendí bien la otra vez que vino this agenda item, y eso es mi responsabilidad también para leerlo bien y entenderlo bien, es la verdad. Sí, por eso estoy aquí. And so I'll take responsibility, and then also if I can ask for your apology or your forgiveness for not understanding, porque sí es mi responsabilidad, de verdad, es verdad. So I would like to once again see the different dates. No sabía que te quitaron el miércoles y el sábado. Y ya sé que hemos hablado muchas veces y siempre digo lo mismo, que in our policy or the way we do it, tiene que ir a la Comisión de Parques y Recreo. Es la verdad. Es donde tenemos que empezar para que viene aquí. Can we bypass that?
Yeah. For the council, but.
I prefer for it to go to the commission though. Y hemos hablado muchas veces de eso también, de ese tema.
So you don't want to bypass it.
But we can.
We can.
Okay. So, y también por los campos después, creo que desde las 8, ¿era? ¿Estamos hablando de ese tema? 8:15. Yo dije en ese momento que no tengo problema con eso, es la verdad. Si no están jugando nadie a las 8, ya sabemos que está haciendo mucho frío y muchas de las familias con niños pequeños no quieren estar en los parques en ese tiempo. So, yo no tengo problemas que podemos usar los campos después de las 8:15, eso no tengo problema tampoco. Pero me gustaría mirar estos días, regresarse para mirarlo todo bien.
No, ya está platicando con señor Natalie, Councilmember Galarza. Tú sigues.
Yo voy voy a ir solo voy a platicar hoy de los parques, pero voy a ir más directo. Esta semana le pedimos, le pedí a nuestro equipo que me dé un correo y me ponga en comparación CICESA y CBSL. Y en ese correo, pues yo aprendí que no hay, no están, no hay no están justos, no hay igualdad.
Igualdad.
No están justos. Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer más corregimiento, que no solo de lo del sábado, les explico. CISA ahorita tiene 6 campos y tiene 5 días de 7 días. CBSL solo tiene 3 campos y solo tiene 3 días. Y luego, entonces, cuando hablamos que hay igualdad, pues esto no refleja igualdad. Si solo también platicamos lo del miércoles y sábado, ustedes están siendo muy humildes solo a pedir lo del miércoles y sábado, pero yo pienso que se tiene que ir más allá, se tiene que platicar cómo también podemos asegurar que esta liga puede usar el Bagduma. El Bagduma es de la ciudad, no es de ninguna liga. Para que haya más oportunidad y más igualdad entre nuestras ligas. Por eso mismo voy a pedir hoy que, pues, para pedir que no implementemos, que le quitemos los sábados hasta que lo platiquemos otra vez. Y si otro regidor me pueda apoyar a la siguiente junta, que podamos platicar sobre esto, o si lo pueden llevar al parque de recreación, a la comisión de parque de recreación. Ya lo platicamos nosotros antes, que se venga para acá para poder debatir esto, pero también que se haga una junta de qué es lo justo que nuestro equipo estudie las dos ligas y por qué es que una liga tiene 6 campos, 5 días, y esta liga de aquí, que hoy están pidiendo nuestro apoyo, solo tienen 3 campos y 3 días. Eso no es justo, entonces tenemos que corregir eso que ha pasado por tantos años. Entonces, si otro regidor me puede apoyar y que no se implemente lo del sábado y también que la siguiente junta se venga este tema otra vez.
Pues ya tienen los
Mayor Pro Tem.
You already have it.
Mayor Pro
Okay,
Tem.
so we'll bring it back. Se va a venir para la siguiente junta.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, the
Thank
floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Seré breve o trataré de ser breve. Gracias por los comentarios y también para hablar un poquito sobre la liga. Yo estoy dispuesta a colaborar con eso de traer y creo que todos aquí también estamos dispuestos a colaborar con ustedes y que traigamos esta póliza de regreso aquí con los regidores, con el concilio. Pero más que nada, gracias por venir, gracias por platicar con nosotros, por darnos la oportunidad de verlos. Si existe una oportunidad después de la junta de platicar con algunas personas de la ciudad o con nosotros como regidores, nos daría muchísimo gusto platicar con ustedes, ya sea hoy o en otra ocasión, cuando se pueda. Sé que es un poquito tarde y tienen los niños y mañana a la escuela, supongo, ¿verdad? Pero muchas gracias por estar aquí. Queremos ayudarles. Queremos colaborar con ustedes siempre que se pueda hacer eso y toma muchísima determinación de ustedes al venir aquí y platicar con nosotros y queremos que sigan haciendo eso, no solamente para hablar de las ligas, para otras cosas también, lo que ocupen ustedes como residentes y la mayoría son residentes de aquí de Coachella. Nos gustaría muchísimo seguir viéndolos y seguir platicando con ustedes sobre diferentes cosas que tengan preguntas. Y gracias por estar aquí. Ahora me voy a mover a otra cosa con el City Manager. I would like to see 2 items, ideally for our next agendas. I don't need to see them in March but I would like to bring 2 items forward. One, Gabe, I want to see, and hopefully some of my colleagues will support me on this. I want to see how we can potentially see where we have city land and find out how we can partner with different agencies, organizations about utilizing some of that land for an early childhood education center. So hopefully we can focus on that. I'll follow up with you. So I'm not just gonna comment, I'll also follow up with you later via email And also letting you know the next steps, and you can chime in and let me know how you can guide me in that sense. And then the second item too is, our city's growing a lot and I expect it to grow, every year. So I would really like for staff or even the council to participate in putting together maybe a list of priorities. And I know the mayor has mentioned this before, but whenever we're having different development in the city, whether it be economic development or housing, and they come to us and ask us, how would you like us to help you when it comes to your city? That we have identified different projects, maybe parks, wherever we have gap funding, and that we say, okay, let's take out our list and this is what we can ask of them. So if we can start putting something like that together, I would be more than happy to help with that. I think that'll be a little bit more ongoing. It's not just, one list, but I would love to see that being brought forward. And those are all my comments.
Thank you, Mayor Pro
I'll
Tem.
support, both of.
Very, very, very productive. Voy a platicar un poquito porque quizás tengo un poquito de historia de lo que ha pasado durante los años y felicidades y me da mucho gusto que están aquí con nosotros porque es importante. Desde el 2020 es cuando se formó esta liga y Manuel, disculpa que tú hablé Miguel, pero Manuel, desde ese entonces han estado trabajando y muy transparentemente, y porque se les están entregando todos los territorios, todo está pasando bien. En ese tiempo, ¿no? Pues la liga no estaba tan grande, pero con el potential de crecer y el potencial, y es lo que está pasando. Y yo creo que esto es muy bueno porque debe de haber competencia y debe de ver, para mí es importante que hay igualdad, que hay parejo y que es justo para las dos ligas. En la comunidad, lo que se le parece justo a uno no se le va a parecer justo al otro. Y esto lo que va a pasar si estamos pidiendo igualdad, entonces vamos a decir que esta liga va a ganar más canchas. Y en la otra liga quizás le vamos a quitar canchas. Y yo sé muy bien que hay muchos padres que juegan en las dos ligas. Y ustedes lo saben muy bien que juegan en las dos ligas. So, si le quitamos acá para subirla acá, se van a enojar allá y van a venir para acá y que no, los van a decir que no es justo. Pero nosotros como concilio tenemos que ser lo más justo posible y lo más parejo posible. Y esa es la dirección que le voy a decir a Maritza. Yo tuve una conversación contigo la otra vez aquí, te dije, hay que ser las dos ligas parejos porque ya han crecido y me respondiste, no se puede porque se va a enojar la otra liga. ¿En qué se enoja? ¿En qué se enoja? Tenemos que hacerlo parejo y justo. Y tiene que haber igualdad. Y yo le voy a decir al concilio que cuando hacemos este cambio, agárrense porque va a llegar la otra liga y hay que estar preparados también porque van a venir y van a andar enojados. El otro punto que los quiero decir a cada uno de ustedes que es importante y es el tercer factor aquí. A todos aquí yo creo que están en favor del cómo se miran nuestras canchas, ¿no? Se miran muy bien mantenidos, verdes, están regados muy bien de agua. Quizás tenemos que quitarle poquito acá porque ustedes trabajan en el mantenimiento y saben, pero se miran muy bien. Y si miras a comparación a otras ciudades, muy buen mantenimiento. Eso también tiene que estar considerado en este aspecto porque el descanso de la cancha y el mantenimiento es importante porque no queremos que nadie se quiebra el tobillo, una pierna. No queremos hoyos en las canchas. Antes había muchos hoyos, estaban bien feos. Eso es el tercer factor que vamos a tener que pues con seriedad, ¿no? En este aspecto. Yo estoy listo para esta conversación. Los quiero decir a cada uno de ustedes feliz día del Valentín, feliz día también de la amistad. hay que darnos un abrazo saliendo de aquí. Con esto concluye la junta, pero vamos a tener otra conversación, la segunda junta. Marita lo va a poner en la agenda. Yo pienso que este salón no va a ser suficiente, quizás lo vamos a tener que mover porque va a haber una conversación más grande con las dos ligas. Y la dirección, ya lo oyeron aquí de los regidores, que quieren igualdad, parejo y justo. ¿De acuerdo? Y para la segunda junta. Con eso estamos concluidos. Gracias. Gabriel, City Manager, comments.
Unless it doesn't happen.
Just one, ADU workshop, March 7th.
Meeting adjourned at 7:45.